So I was thinking, I upload these videos here on YouTube every single week talking about what I've learned in my decades of acne prone skin and what I've learned, but I've never really shared my full acne story. So this video is going to be exactly that. It's going to be a full rundown of my acne scarring and everything in between, so I can explain exactly what has worked and how I'm sitting here finally with clear skin. So let's rewind and take this right back to the start. So I started at high school feeling pretty happy, carefree, confident in my own skin, you know the deal, until the first spot arrived. I legit got quite excited actually about the first one because I felt like a fully fledged teenager. I felt like it was like a coming of age, the next chapter of my life. But the novelty of that very rapidly wore off when a year later I was an oily, spotty mess. Cue my first plan of attack, which was Oxy on the spot. Who remembers that stuff, guys? Because that paired with the Clearasil face wash, I honestly thought all of my problems were going to be solved. In hindsight, that actually just made things a whole lot worse. So once I tried that for a little while without much success, I basically begged my mum to take me to the doctors because I was about 15 at this point and I'd already been teased multiple times about my skin at school. And also at this point, I've been basically hiding behind layers of Maybelline Mousse foundation, like straightening my hair to death with GHDs to basically distract from my face. Who actually remembers that Maybelline foundation? I feel like every girl at school had it. Also, comment teen problems if you can relate to this. So at the first appointment, I got prescribed benzoyl peroxide. That basically just burnt my face and didn't work. I wasn't really instructed on how to use it properly. I think the second appointment, I got prescribed limacycline. That didn't work. Then I got prescribed minocycline, I think. That didn't work. And so the appointments went on. We all know the drill. Basically, none of those worked long term. And at this point, I should also add that my acne wasn't like cystic. It was just surface pimples like in my T-zone. Probably quite typical of a teenager's. So when I was 16, I went back to the doctors because I was still really fed up with my skin. My skin looked nothing like some of my friends. They had like this perfect, poreless face. So I went back and I kind of asked if there was anything else I could try. And at this point, the doctor prescribed me Dianet, which is a combination birth control pill, which essentially targets like your androgens, your testosterone. I didn't really know this at the time. I just sort of took the pill thinking that this was going to be my answer to clear skin. So I took this pill for about a year and my skin started to look much better, like a lot better. It was still oily. I was still powdering my face every hour, but the actual texture of my skin had improved dramatically, and therefore so did my confidence. Because I think when you feel good within your own skin, your confidence dramatically rises. Hit the like button if you agree, because I'm sure I cannot be the only one. So I was going back for my prescription every sort of 3 months, and then after a year, the doctor basically told me that I couldn't stay on this pill because there were some side effects in terms of like blood clots. It basically wasn't a safe pill to stay on for like the long term. So he prescribed me Yasmin. So at this point, switching pills to me really didn't seem like a big deal. I honestly just thought they all did the same. I didn't really understand how they worked within the body. And if I'm being honest, I kind of just assumed that most acne could be solved with topical skincare. I knew that it was obviously something related internally, but I thought, you know what, I didn't really have much success with antibiotics. Potentially the pill is helping, but maybe it's just because I'm getting older at this point. I was sort of 17, 18, I think, by the time I went on Yasmin. So I just sort of assumed that I was getting to an age where my acne was subsiding. So yeah, switching pills didn't seem like a big deal. So a few months into Yasmin, I actually experienced my first cyst. Oh my God, guys, I honestly remember this day so well. I think I was about, 17, 18, and I did not know what was going on with my skin. I actually just wanted to die. I was honestly really embarrassed. I did the worst thing possible as well. I actually took a needle to the cyst. Okay, guys. Like you can only imagine the amount of damage I caused to my skin. It looked 10 times worse. It was horrible. Yeah, honestly, don't do that. If you ever have a cyst, please be careful. Do not squeeze it, do not pick it. It really does make the situation worse. I wish I'd learned my lesson from that very first cyst, but believe me, I didn't. I still used to always try and get rid of them. Anyway, my face was a mess, need I say more. This actually felt like a pretty tough year because I was getting really self-conscious about my skin. I really just couldn't figure out why I was breaking out this often. It was kind of like 1 or 2 cysts around my chin, maybe my jawline as well. So it wasn't hugely affecting my life, but my confidence was really suffering because of it. And I actually remember this one time I was on holiday. I was in Greece with a ton of my friends, and I remember there was this boy that I really fancied, and I remember one of the other boys pointed out my skin in front of him, and honestly, it literally like broke my heart. I was honestly crippled with embarrassment. I think I just went home and cried, to be quite honest with you. Like, it just felt like the most embarrassing thing in the entire world at the time. This did kind of light a fire in me though, I have to admit, because I went home after that holiday and I really researched my skincare routine. Like, I took it to the next level. I was really working out what the active ingredients are to fight acne and what I could do to really put together a strong routine. If I thought I was doing a good routine before, I really took it very seriously after this. The first thing I did was actually have a home glycolic peel. So this was like the days where like internet shopping was just coming about. Like, that shows my age, I know. But I remember begging my mum for her credit card details so I could order off this site this at-home glycolic peel. And it sort of came in a really little set where you would apply like this glycolic peel once a day over the course of like 5 days. And honestly, I just sat at home looking like a reptile. Should have probably been at sixth form, but I just worked from home and just basically didn't leave my bedroom. The next thing I researched was that steam actually opens up your pores. And I really believe that this was like the answer to clear skin for a really long time. I used to every single day take my makeup off and then steam my face. And I'm talking like coming home at like 3 AM drunk because I was like an 18-year-old. And this is still something I would do. Like, the fact that I didn't manage to burn my face off is kind of a miracle. I'd also learned that salicylic acid was probably the best ingredient for my skin at the time. So I remember buying this Neutrogena Spot Control face wash. I remember buying the toner, the moisturizer. So yeah, I really took an interest in those active ingredients and knew that salicylic acid was the way forward. Because the glycolic acid peel had worked so well, I kind of knew that acids were the way forward, and kind of exfoliating your skin and yeah, turning your skin over quicker was a good answer to this. So anyway, things kind of just stayed the same. I then went off to uni, so that kind of distracted me, and I was still keeping up with this kind of steaming my face every night, using salicylic acid, and I felt like that was the best way to control my skin. I never felt like confident, I never went out without any makeup on, but I genuinely felt better about my skin and knew it kind of wasn't like a full face of acne, and that my oil control was still a problem, but somewhat under control. I also had learned how to kind of apply makeup a lot better at this point, so so yeah, things had improved. So this story really takes a turn when I turned about 26. Yeah, I think it was a few months after turning 26. I moved out into a flat share with 2 of my friends, and I kind of knew at this point that this wasn't a teenage problem anymore. Like, this was something internal, probably hormonal, that I really wanted to solve. So I decided to have a huge lifestyle change overnight in like 2015. I've been reading so much about different bloggers, people on YouTube going vegan and having just like the best skin of their life. So I decided to do the same. So I literally went vegan, started doing yoga, quit the pill, like ditched my beloved salicylic acid for something all natural. At this point, I also ended like a pretty long-term relationship and just alienated myself from my friends. I just decided to become like this vegan, yoga-loving, all-natural, clean-eating person who basically didn't drink or go out or see anybody, and just really, yeah, felt quite lonely, to be honest. And then the next month hit, and my skin went mental. Like, if I ever thought I had acne before this point, I was in for a serious lesson. I just went into like serious isolation mode. I was trying everything. All I was doing all day was researching how to get rid of acne. Like, I started taking Estrablock and magnesium and Vitex and evening primrose oil and a B complex, because I read that the pill deprives you from like vitamin B. I took like a probiotic, I was taking apple cider vinegar in the morning, I was taking vitamin E, vitamin C, like every supplement under the sun. I was taking it because I was desperate to get rid of my acne. I then researched about this 2-week juice cleanse with all these different herbs, and I decided to do that as well, which then led me down the path of becoming high carb, low fat vegan, because that apparently would cure all acne and balance all your hormones. So I went down that path as well. I decided like every breakfast would be a smoothie. I got a personal trainer so that I could become fitter, because I thought that was the answer too. Honestly, I became obsessed, and ultimately I became depressed because of that. Like, I cancelled all plans always. Like, I cancelled a holiday, I cancelled work events that were really important. Anytime friends would invite me out, I would just get this like fear, like this anxiety of going out and just not feeling like myself and wondering if people would judge me because of my skin, and like it was taking over my life. Like, my anxiety at one point was just getting like, oh, so bad. Like, I honestly just started to feel kind of like hopeless. Like, I know if any of you guys have experienced having really bad acne, like it just becomes so much, it just becomes your life. Like you just feel crippled because of it. And I know it sounds really dramatic, but I just felt like I couldn't feel happiness, which is so like, I don't know, now I think about it, I'm like, how could I have let myself get to that point? But like, it just was the only thing I could think of, and I just couldn't feel happy. Also, my period was nowhere to be seen, so it didn't turn up for like 5 months, and everyone around me was just telling me to go back on the pill and just to kind of solve this, but I I felt like I'd come so far at that point, like to just go back on myself. So when I got to month 5, honestly, as I said, this was taking over my life, and I was really starting to worry about scarring as well. I could see that this cystic acne, which had just sort of come up overnight, was scarring my skin badly. And like I was feeling kind of heartbroken because I knew that these cysts were basically creating indentations that just made me so sure that my skin would never look as it once did. And this really kind of was getting to me. I would also just be beating myself up about all the years I complained about acne up until this point, because quite honestly, that didn't even touch the surface of what I was going through at this point. Like, one coping mechanism I had would, I'd be coming into work and I'd be looking at my calendar and I would honestly count down the days until I'd given Estrablock, which was a supplement for my skin, the full 3 months, because everyone was saying I needed to give it 3 months before I stopped, or 3 months until you saw actual results. So, and even worse, actually, sometimes I would get into work and I would sit there and I would count down by hour how long I had to kind of give this to see if it would work, or, you know, I was convinced that this was the answer. I'd read so many kind of Amazon reviews and blogs, and everyone in the natural world was kind of claiming that Vitex and Estrablock were the answers. And then one night in July, I was just sort of lying there, like I really couldn't sleep. And it got to about 5 AM and I just sort of said to myself, like, this is not life, this is not making me happy, like something needs to change. And I guess I've been reading like a few self-help blogs that week, which I kind of just thought was like my last shot. So I got up and I just wrote down on a piece of paper all the things that I wanted from life, like all the things that I knew I could have that were obtainable, and that I really wanted to make me feel good. So on this piece of paper, I wrote that I wanted clear skin. I wanted to be free to not wear makeup if I didn't want to. I wanted a meaningful relationship. I wanted to make friends that understood this journey and could relate. I wanted my own home so that I could feel safe in it. And I wanted double the salary I was on, so that I could afford to eat healthy foods if I wanted to and not feel restricted to what I could buy. I wanted to feel food freedom so I didn't have to check and read labels every time I ate something. And I just wanted to feel fulfilled. So I just wrote this all down and just trusted the process and just knew if I took action that something would change and this could be mine. And so the next day, like, I got up, I put my hair up for the first time. Like, I hadn't worn my hair up in about like 6 months at this point. I was so conscious of my cheeks. But at this point, as I said, it was July and it was super hot. It was like 50 degrees on the tube, and I used to literally like sit there like with my hair like this at all times. Like, if it was even like, I would just literally cry if like the wind blew and like my hair was like out of my face. But I put my hair up and I was like, you know what? This is how I feel good. I then decided that that night I wasn't going to cancel my plans like I normally did. I went and had a Nando's, got myself a beer, I took the pill and I took a doxycycline antibiotic tablet, and I just thought, this isn't forever, this isn't what I'm saying is like my healthy way of living, but I need to action this, and this is what I know will help my skin. And don't get me wrong, it wasn't like all happiness overnight. I still felt incredibly like depressed really about my acne scars. Also, I was just kind of like waiting again, and I'd spent so long waiting for Estrablock and all these supplements to work, which didn't. So I knew I was just back to this waiting game of waiting for the pill to kick in, but I knew that I was hopeful and I knew that the pill would clear my skin, and you know, it was obtainable. Like, it was in the near future. I was like getting to the place where I knew something would work. And in that kind of waiting time, is really when I decided to research my game plan, like how I was going to get my skin actually back on track. So I decided to tackle the hyperpigmentation first, because they were like the red marks that everybody saw when I wasn't wearing any makeup, and I knew that they'd be the first thing people would see if they looked at my skin. So yeah, I decided to research the best thing to do about this. I researched that the quickest way to deal with this was with a laser, which was called VBEAM. It's pulse dye laser. I actually made a whole video about it, so I'll link it on screen now. And I then researched who the best person was to do this treatment for me, and it was a dermatologist in Manchester, who I've spoken about again in that video that I've just linked. So go and check that out if that's something you're interested in. So I did 3 rounds of that, which really helped with my red marks. And then stage 2 was actually tackling the indentations. I'm not even kidding. I read probably every single article on acne.org back in 2015 that was talking about acne scar treatment, because I was like adamant I was going to get my skin back to what it used to look like. Like, I was not taking no for an answer. And the one thing that I kept reading that had really helped a lot of people was thyme and derma rolling. So if you are patient and you derma roll, microneedle, the results kind of spoke for themselves. So I was absolutely sure that that's the plan of action I was going to take. I did some research about getting this done professionally, but I had just spent a ton of money on this laser treatment, so I kind of assumed that if I followed these instructions that I found on this website called OwnDoc, I would be able to get the same results from home. Again, I have an entire playlist talking about my microneedling results and how I microneedle from home, so I will link that on screen. Please feel free to check that out, because it honestly transformed my skin. Like, every single day, there is at least one point in the day where I just think how grateful I am that microneedle worked for me, because I just know that feeling of like desperation and researching to death ways to clear acne scars, and I actually just can't believe it worked. And so phase 3 was project get my natural period back and balance my hormones, because that was the underlying problem, which I absolutely knew. Okay, so if I come off the pill and my acne had flared up, then I just knew it was a hormonal issue. And that's when I realized I'd just been doing it all wrong. Like, high carb, low fat vegan was not the answer. You need fats, they are like the building blocks for hormones. So I decided to actually spin things on their head, really watch my blood sugar. So I wasn't eating like a ton of sugary foods or high carbs, and I really focused on like healthy fats and like a balanced meal which had protein, fats and carbohydrates in them. I had also finally been to see a dermatologist on the NHS at this point. I had been referred like right when my acne first started breaking out, but it took like well over 6 months to see one. So when I went to see her, she offered me Accutane, and I'd also researched this. So I knew it was something that I could potentially take, but I thought my skin is kind of under control at this point. Like, the pill had started to kick in, and I knew that what was left was mostly scarring. It wasn't really actually active acne. So I kind of thought, you know what? I might go on that, but my emotional well-being just can't quite handle that at the moment. I just want to get things back on track in terms of my skin clearing before I went through the whole phase of like having dry, peely, irritated skin. So I microneedled for a year, and then I went back to the dermatologist and basically got my prescription of Accutane, and have researched that weaning off the pill was probably the best bet for me to not kind of shock my hormones again. So I decided to wean off the pill at the same time as starting Accutane. And at this point, like I said, I've been microneedling for a year. So I also knew that the vitamin A from Accutane, that's like a synthetic form of vitamin A, was also great for speeding up microneedling results. Like, lots of people were pairing it with retinol and retin A, so I knew that this combination was definitely the best option for me. Again, if you're thinking about going on Accutane, I've also got a playlist for that, so I will link that on screen. It talks about my entire experience and kind of things that I learned. So yeah, feel free to ask me any questions in the comments if you have any questions about Accutane. Happy to answer them at any time. So in short, that was a complete success. My acne scarring completely cleared up, my acne completely cleared too. Like, my skin really had never looked better. So Accutane essentially just transformed my skin. Like, it wasn't without its fair share of side effects, but honestly, like, my pores shrunk, my scarring subsided, like, my skin honestly had transformed. So I've been off Accutane for 1.5 years now, and I've been off the pill for just over that as well. I am using topical Tretinoin to just maintain like good results and really help with anti-aging as well. But honestly, my skin has never looked better. Like, this is the best skin I've ever had in my life. And that's why I'm just really excited to share this journey with you, because if it helps anybody, that would obviously make my day. Like, acne might feel like a life sentence, but I just want to give somebody hope, because honestly, it's not. Please have hope. Your skin can clear. There are things that you can do. So I now eat a diet which is full of macro and micronutrients. I eat all kinds of food, like a mixed diet. And yeah, I just watch my blood sugar, like I was saying, and I watch that I don't eat too much sugar, because that can break me out. But equally, I found that stress causes acne for me, and you know, my emotions really play into my skin. I can honestly see how like my stress and my depression and like my anxiety all kind of fed into making my skin like way worse than it probably ever was going to be. Anyone watching this who is struggling with the acne, please know that your acne does not define you. This is just one of life's many experiences. You'll learn like a ton of amazing things about your body. If you ever feel like you need a friend to talk to about your skin and how it's making you feel, please know that I'm happy to be there for you. Just leave me a comment and I will definitely love to chat with you. Also want to add that everything that I wrote down on that list has now become a reality for me, and I'm not saying my life is perfect, it's far from that, but it just shows you how much mindset can affect all struggles in life. And yeah, honestly, being positive and focusing and just taking action and understanding how your mind works and how important it is so key, particularly with something like acne. That legit felt like therapy, guys. A bit of a long one, I know, but I really hope you guys stick around and hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, because I would love to be there for you and your journey too. But that is all from me this week. Like I said, I really hope I see you in my next one, and have a great week. Bye, guys.